How you doing, sir? How you doing, sir?
I'm good. How you?
Pretty good.
Matt, that's a nice looking room you got.
Thank you, sir.
You strike me as probably being pretty tidy. You pretty tidy?
Yeah. Pretty tidy.
Yeah. Castanian, on the other hand, I bet like you can't even see the floor.
Let's see it, Alex.
Oh my gosh! I like it's not everything that I thought.
Sir.
How you doing?
Not too shabby. How are you?
Good.
How'd the draft go for the Dolphins?
Mr. Coach.
Very pleased.
You should be,
Jigsaw
man.
gonna be good?
They got Breda, too, from the 49ers.
That's because I was worried about the running back position. We were supposed to get Dobbins. Dobbins went a pick before he went to the Ravens just before we were able to pick him. And so, it was getting late in the draft, and I had a feeling that they were probably going to have to trade a few of their picks in order to get somebody. But I like Breda. I think he's a good running back. He'll complement Howard very well, I think.
You got Howard, too?
Yeah, we got Howard from the Eagles about a month ago. So I'm not so sure that Tua will play next year, but I think
Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, they got Fitzpatrick. They still have Rosen. I think they'll roll with those two guys next year, and
You think
be fine.
one thing? Why did Fromm go so late in the draft?
He went to the Bills, yeah.
Yeah, you know where he went to college? Georgia.
Georgia, yeah.
He's horrible. That's why.
He just had a bad season.
Thank you, Brock.
We had a pretty good group on Zoom watching things the other day, though.
It was all juniors.
It's pretty solid. Yeah, well, I asked that it be juniors and seniors just to make sure that, because you guys don't want to be on there with freshmen. I figured juniors might be more palatable.
No, I think most of the juniors were just trying to get on your good side for next year.
On my good side, I don't have a bad.
Yeah. Well, have a better chance,
Sir, you have a bad side.
Yes, you do.
You have a bad side, sir.
No, I don't.
Agreed. I think all the black people see it.
calling you
I didn't
lazy.
say all that.
I didn't mean to say that. I didn't mean to say it like that.
Prince, you got to kick you, bro.
He got that on recording too.
Exactly. Hello, Lauren.
Racist.
I don't put the recording. I don't know if you want to post that one. Coach Walker, I need to see you in my office. No, Coach Walker, I need to see you in my office. You hate black people?
Please report.
I'm not the one with Confederate flags all over the place, Brock.
Oh.
Mm.
No, nothing. Party time.
Driving around with like your
Frank.
jacked up truck and all this other stuff.
Daddy's money.
Oh.
Oh.
Dang.
All right, I'm going to give you guys a second to get comported, meaning like where you were situated in your room, what you're wearing, all that good stuff.
At least you don't have a "Don't Tread on Me" license plate like Coach Walker does. Don't tread on Coach.
He's in the Virginia militia. Calm down.
I don't have a "Don't tread on me" anything.
It's okay, Coach. We won't tread on you.
Okay, we're good with how we look?
Yeah.
Okay,
Are you at home or are you at school?
time to start removing people. Can't lay down.
Oh, he's going to be T.
Who got kicked?
Malcolm.
Oh, so did Jack.
Brock, what shirt is that, bud?
Sir, not the third day in a row.
See you later. Bennett, what you got on? I can't see it. Is it Benedictine?
You're on mute.
It's a Benedictine shirt. And I can't have the camera propped up anymore.
Okay, can you stand up?
It's not a Benedictine shirt.
What about you, Brian? Where are you at? See you later, bud. Okay, guys. It's just us. But you can't say I'm racist because Stevie's still in here and Simon Goydam's still in here. So,
Sir, Goydam does not count.
Yes, I do. I
No,
can't.
you don't.
Yes, I do.
okay. So
What's up, Diego?
let me see. Let me make sure that there is when I've locked the meeting. And two, so I have a bad side, huh?
I was just messing with you when I said that.
Yeah, Drew's being dead serious over here. I've got a bad side. Drew, it's interesting because I think you have a temper. Is
Really?
that a fair assessment? Do you think you have a temper?
I mean, maybe. I don't really notice it. I wouldn't be surprised if I did.
Yeah. I mean, I know I have a temper. My wife says I have a temper. But I think I do. I think I'm pretty amicable. In terms of like teachers at the school, I'm not top 5 or anything.
Yeah, see, the first time you kicked me, though, like, I was force muted, and I was having trouble with my phone. And I couldn't say anything because I was force muted. And so I wasn't sure why I got kicked out until I actually got kicked out for good. That's the only reason I was angry.
Well, a lot of that is just us trying to figure out technology and stuff. And there have been a couple kids that I've removed that I felt bad about after the fact. You're one of them.
Appreciate that, sir.
We make mistakes. One of the meaner teachers at the school. Interesting.
Sir, the Army doesn't make mistakes, though.
You know what Winston Churchill said, though?
I was quoting it from the movie Fury.
Well, I'm sure. I'm just telling you what Winston Churchill said. He said, "You have enemies. Good. That means you stood for something in your life." What we're going to do is we're going to work through a little bit of this of the end of that PowerPoint, like the backside of that PowerPoint. I don't think we had homework due today. The only thing you guys had was the quiz, right? Quiz grades should be posted. I'm going to provide you with the quiz. I'll start with that. I'll provide you with the quiz words that we have for today. So just allow me to do that. Go ahead.
The quiz we took last week?
No, so we've got another one scheduled for this Friday. This will be the last quiz that you have to take from me. We're going to have a test next Thursday.
Sir, I have a question.
On civil liberties, yes.
When we took the quiz, I got one wrong because I put due process clause.
For those of you guys who did that, I gave you credit.
All right. Thank you.
Just trying to bear with me. I'm trying to pull these words. Okay, so share screen. Okay, so these are the new words for this week. I'm sorry, these ones over here. Let me de-highlight the judicial branch ones. We've already done these. And I'm sure there's going to be people wondering what quiz words we have. You know, hopefully they look at this video. My guess is they don't. So if you want to be bros with them and share with them the words, you can. I don't care about that.
I sent it to all them, sir.
You sent them the words?
Yes.
Very nice. Okay, looks like most of you guys are done getting that. Matthew, are you good or are you still writing?
No, I got a couple more.
Okay.
I'm good.
I think we have a little bit left to finish. We were talking last class about what freedom specifically?
Freedom of speech.
Civil liberties.
Yeah. Well, civil liberties, but specifically not freedom of speech. We weren't talking about that.
Darn it. Yeah, we were. Or maybe that was the quiz.
Might have been information in the quiz. I think libel and slander were a couple of the words.
Oh yeah, that's where it was.
Yeah. So we were talking about freedom of religion. What two separate clauses, which we also happen to be talking about in my AP class today, which two separate clauses are in freedom of religion?
Due
Somebody's trying to
process
call me.
clause.
Is there somebody from Cartersville that's in the class?
Cartersville.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Where even is Cartersville?
Yeah, it's like out in Powhatan.
McCaffrey. Nah, he's at his mom's, I think.
He may have logged in too late. He might be at his mom's, but his cell phone might be Cartersville. So I'm sorry, did you guys answer that question? What two parts of freedom of religion are there?
Due process clause.
Nope.
Darn it.
It's gonna be free exercise, which means essentially what?
You can freely exercise whatever religion you want.
Yeah, you can freely exercise whatever religion you want. And then the establishment clause, Matthew, what might that do? Establishment. In terms of freedom of religion.
I have no clue.
Okay, so
The
Alex,
church or the no,
go ahead, CJ.
The government can't tax churches.
Okay, so no, that's more of kind of free exercise in terms of, they can't inhibit churches in that way. Establishment means, that there is no state religion. Like Iran, there's a state religion. That state religion is Islam, right? We talked about that last week. Israel, same story with Judaism. So let's kind of pick up with that conversation, and we're going to pick up from this current slide. And I think I told you guys that we're moving past that. We're not going to worry about that. We covered the Lemon test. You guys are going to have to be aware of the Lemon test. It's just a 3-pronged test. There's 3 parts. So this is where we left off. I know. So according to this, what do we think? School prayer, and I think this would be a good exercise. Why don't we do it this way? You see those yes, no buttons on the on your it should appear somewhere next to the chat feature, I think.
Sir,
there's a yes check button and a no X button. So school prayer, is that currently mandatory? And remember, we're talking about terms of public schools, not private.
Wait, where's the yes no thing?
click on participants,
Oh,
and then you'll see that towards the bottom.
Yeah, that's right.
I see it.
So click participants and figure that out. Stevie, you good?
Yes, sir. I'm great. How are you?
Okay, good. I just awfully quiet. Just want to make sure you're still alive.
Yes, sir.
Do you want us to copy these down?
I'm going to provide you the cases in a second. This is just an exercise. We're just kind of rolling through this.
So,
Gotcha.
sir, so the question is, should school prayer be mandatory?
Not should. So the question. So how did the federal courts rule in each of the given cases? Yes.
Oh, I see.
Yes. School prayer is or should be mandatory. No, it is not mandatory, or it depends. Right. So think about in terms of public schools for these cases. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it looks like most people are putting no. This is one great feature about Zoom that we wouldn't be able to do in class. Okay, good. I'm going to go ahead and clear your guesses, and then we'll put up the next one. Daily Bible readings in schools. What do you think? Okay, yeah, it looks like everybody's on the same page there. That one's pretty obvious as well. How about this one? Moment of silent prayer. I'll clear them. Okay, we're getting kind of a mixed response now, which is fine. they were clear cut, they wouldn't have been Supreme Court cases. Okay, so Goydam, actually, Yago, you're the one guy who said yes, that's fine. Why do you think?
Wait, I thought we were saying. Oh, go ahead. Never mind.
No,
I was just thinking because in the mornings at public school, don't they always have a moment of silence? At least that's what I remember when I went.
Yeah. You're right about that. They do have a moment of silence in public school. So, there's some gray area there at least. So we'll come back to that one and see. The sticking point might be here though. So let's continue on. What about this one? Moment of silence for non-religious reasons. I'll clear.
Are we saying?
Go ahead. Press me again, guys. Sorry, I apologize. I didn't clear the old one out.
Are we saying that they have these in public schools, or are we saying that they should be?
I'm asking about reality.
All right.
Yeah, not like what your value is. Okay, and this one's pretty much unanimous. Waiting on Phil Hauer.
Oh.
Sorry.
I clicked it and then you cleared it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So everybody says yes there. I think that one's obvious. So the only one that's been questionable so far, maybe somewhat questionable, is moment of silent prayer. And then we'll do the next one. Permissible to have school functions, such things like graduation, at a church with religious icons on display. Is that okay? According to the government. Okay, everybody.
Wait.
Yeah, go ahead.
Never mind.
Okay, so just if you were to have Mills Godwin graduation ceremony at St. Benedict's. All right. Permissible to have religious figures not affiliated with the school at official school events. CJ is the lone wolf on this one. Why do you think so?
Well, I'm just saying, all the pep rallies and stuff that I've been to, when I was in public school, there were no religious leaders at the school events.
So based off personal experience.
Yeah.
And I think the implication here is that they are participating to some extent. I mean, obviously it's okay for, Deacon Bob to be in the building. Okay.
So I just want to say, my elementary school, they would all stand up in these bleachers and then sing songs and stuff. But we never sang songs about Christmas, but we always sang songs about Kwanzaa and dreidels and stuff. I never really understood that.
Which elementary school did you go to?
Pinchback.
Okay, so public elementary school, and
they made us sing it too.
Yeah, technically, constitutionally, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we're going to talk about a couple of circumstances that might apply that might make it okay, but it's only okay if you do what?
Include all of them.
If you include Christian crosses and Jesus manger scenes and all that. So I think the tough part is if you're going to open up that can, how do you make it even then? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I would just prefer they either go all in or all out, like me personally. If you're going to go all in, then make it all about Christianity. If not, then just leave it 100% out. All religions everywhere. What about this? Permissible to have student-led prayer at official school events. So say like a football game or something like that. All right, so Phil Howard's a lone wolf here. Why do you think, Phil?
First of all, I'm a little confused. So, like, does that mean like the whole school does this stuff, or could it be like the football team gathering around in a circle and then praying before a game?
Good question. I would say either way.
Okay, I think the football teams can gather around if they want to and pray.
Okay, so maybe there isn't a depends answer. So maybe it depends on this one, right? It can't be like Mills Godwin's version of Barry Gibrell getting up on the speaker, right?
Yes.
Okay. Permissible display, 10 Commandments. So this is when we kind of diverge away from schools a little bit. Permissible display 10 Commandments at courthouse.
I have a question about not necessarily. It's about a courthouse, though.
This was a big deal when I was your age. There was a couple courthouses, one in South Carolina that they made a big deal about. So it looks like either this is universally you guys are saying nope.
Question.
Yes, sir.
When you go into a court case, don't you have to swear an oath on the Bible?
When you go into a court case, do you have to swear an oath on the Bible? You can, but I believe now they allow for other scriptures.
All right. Never mind.
So I think the default is the Bible. And there have been like members of Congress, for example, that have put their hand on the Quran or the Torah. All right, so permissible to teach creationism. How about that one?
In like a mandatory class?
Optional. Because this has been tried on several different occasions, I think as recently as this past year. This is surprising to me. Most of you guys are saying...
If it's optional, then the person has the option to take the class or drop out of it.
Okay. Well, we'll look and see how that holds up to how they ruled on the case. Permissible to allow drug use at religious practices. Interesting. Everybody says nope. Okay, and then just one last one. Permissible to allow animal sacrifices religious practice. Like a goat, not like a endangered animal. All right, got a couple of yays, but nays.
I'm like half.
What's that?
Kind of half.
Yeah, me too.
I'm not sure like what borderlines is like animal abuse and then like hunting for things.
Okay, so think about. I think the standard example, and actually this is what the court case had to do with them literally taking a goat and cutting its neck, blood on the altar, all that good stuff.
Like that's how we get our food. So I mean. I don't know.
But if it's a sacrifice, wouldn't we not get it?
Yeah. Guess it depends on your religion.
Yeah.
Let's look at the cases and see how it works out. So, good job with that. For the most part, you guys are right. There's a few cases where we kind of got off a little bit, and there was also a couple where only one or two of you got it right. So we'll see how it worked out. So. These are court cases that I'm going to have you know. A great way for me to ask them would be to, provide you with a court case. You just tell me what that court case is all about or what freedom it had to do with. So here's so as far as school prayer should it be mandatory? The court case we're talking about is a 1962 case. This was a case where they were holding mandatory school prayer, and it was the Lord's Prayer that they were sitting in class at the beginning of each day, much like we do at Benedictine. And I think it was like a third grade class, something like that. It was definitely elementary school. And there was one student in there who was Jewish, and this student's parents was opposed to the using the Lord's Prayer. Obviously, Jesus' prayer and all that. So, it's understandable that somebody who's Jewish would be opposed to being forced to say that prayer. So they ended up saying that, right, that you can't have mandatory school prayer. Engel versus Vital is going to be the case that establishes that. That's going to be a landmark case.
That kid kind of looks like you.
Are you cooking?
No, I was just thinking
Just
it kind of
because
reminds me of you.
his head, he has a large head. Yeah.
No, I think it's the haircut.
He's wearing a plaid shirt.
Yeah.
That is Drew, not me, sir.
I'm not cooking, sir. I just pointed it out.
Okay. All right. Careful, Drew. I'm about to flip out on you.
He might kick you out.
All right, so the next one they were reading, it'd just be a different Bible verse each day. There'd be a different student that was asked to come up and read the verse. And again, there was another Jewish student, I think, in an elementary school who was opposed to this, and they ended up ruling in the student's favor in this case, or the parents of the student. Moment of silent prayer. This one is another no, and the whole reason why, the whole argument from the school was this was after Engel versus Vital, so the school thought that they were in compliance. They said, well, we're not doing anything wrong because they're not saying anything. But how might the Supreme Court have responded to that?
They said no.
Well, what might have been the response? To listen, it's silent prayer, so we're not saying anything. You can say whatever you want to say, or you can think whatever you want to think.
It still has religious connotations.
And it's still the idea that you're praying is what the Supreme Court case said. They said the fact that you are praying, even though silently, means that you are pushing for one religion. The implication they thought was Judeo-Christian, so they went against. They said they couldn't do that either.
Doesn't everybody pray, though? All religions?
Yeah. So, it could incorporate any religion. In this case, I believe Wallace was an atheist. And so he or she had a problem with it. The rest.
If you're an atheist,
are you an atheist in elementary school?
Atheist family, I guess. I don't know. That'd be pretty sad, pretty dark existence. Okay, moment of silence for non-religious reasons. I think everybody got this one. The answer was yes. The idea here was, the argument on the part of the student was, yes, even though we're taking a moment of silence, the implication is that we should be praying. This even should not be allowed. The Supreme Court was not willing to take it that far. The idea being that you can do whatever you want with the moment of silence. How many of you guys went to a public school at one point in time? Okay, so it looks like the vast majority of you. And you may remember they were always very careful about, at the beginning of the day, referring to it as a moment of silence, not a time for prayer. In fact, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they get on you for even for praying out loud, right? Like you can't do anything that indicates, and that might even include crossing yourself. You can't do anything that intimidates, right, other people. All right, so permissible to have school functions such as graduation on a church. I think all of you guys said no. You were right. Lee versus Weissman, 1992. This is a situation where they had it at a Catholic church with religious icons on display. There was no part of the graduation in which religious people took, or priest had taken place. There was no scripture read. There was no prayer. But the fact that they had it at a church they deemed was a problem. So that one's going to be Lee versus Weissman.
Hey, sir, can you go back on the other slide for a second?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, I got it. Thank you.
All right. Lee versus Weissman being this one. All right. Permissible to have religious figures at school events. This one was a no. Same case. Lee versus Weissman. The justices added on to that one. And then permissible to have student-led prayer at official games. They said yes. And this kind of gets to the point that you made, Drew, and I think you're the first person in any class I've had to figure this out, is the idea that student-led prayer is okay, but you can't use the PA system. Why would they say that?
Because student-led prayer is like their own choice, and they don't that's like optional. But if it's for the PA, then I think most people would probably feel like they'd have to do it.
Right.
Or it's like it's coming from the school, not the students.
It's more official, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of the sequence of events, pray, then kick off, right? So that's the idea behind that.
Sir.
If the students want to have it off to the side, if the football team wants to have it off to the side, that's been deemed as okay. Although I think there have been cases where this has been a problem in the past. Yes, a question.
So you can't even have if you, let's say you really wanted a priest to come to your graduation, you couldn't have that priest come to a graduation?
You could like I said, you could have Deacon Bob come to your graduation, and he could even be dressed in his priestly garb, right? But he couldn't be a part of the ceremony. And so there's actually, and to kind of go along with is currently, what's kind of the conflict with freedom of religion right now, kind of going on with the current current events going on. How are church and state kind of butting heads right now?
The stay-at-home orders. People can't go to church or religious events.
Right. And there's some churches that are openly conflicting with those orders, gathering in groups of more than 10 people. There's been stories of pastors that have been literally arrested after their congregation has met because they violated these orders. There have been stories of like landlords changing the locks on the doors of the church so that people couldn't go in there if they wanted to go or not. So different states are handling this different ways, but if there's laws against it, those laws are being enforced whether you're a church or not. What do you think? Do you think churches should be able to meet?
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
So you can still go to schools, like teachers can go to schools because they're essential, right? So if our church is part of our school, could they technically pray in there?
If our church is part of the school, so could you're asking?
So like you can't go to churches, but you can go to schools.
Well, you can't go to schools.
Well, I mean teachers, like just teachers.
No, they can't. Mr. Grapes can't require that I come to school. I mean, that's why I'm at home right now.
You're at home. I thought you were at school.
The teachers, and like think about the teachers who are there. It's Mr. Gaffney, Mr. Arnold, Mr. McCarthy. Why are those guys there?
Because they don't have internet.
Yeah, well, they either don't have internet or they wouldn't know. They just don't have the resources or the knowledge or the know-how to figure that out. So it's supposed to be a completely voluntary thing. Now, I would imagine if a teacher really wanted to cause a problem, that they could, but nobody is. Good question. All right, so let's get through a few more of these. I think this page and the next, and then we'll be done. So display of the 10 commandments. This is one of the depends ones. Stone versus Graham, okay? This was a display. Actually, you don't need to know this court case. I don't ask you know it, so don't worry about that one. Stone versus Graham. You display it, but it cannot be mandated that the state show it. And I think that's what it was either Arkansas and I think it was South Carolina tried to require it. And then the second case here, and these are two other cases you do not have to be aware of. They cannot mandate display of commandments in courtrooms, and it cannot be given special pride of place. What do they mean by pride of place? Alex Castanian, what do you think pride of place means?
Pride of place?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it means that like a courthouse is it's like a government property, and it's like the law. I don't know.
You're thinking about it too hard. So think about it this way. If you're talking about pride of place, all that means is, so in a courthouse, where might pride of place be? Or a preeminent place?
Where the judge sits.
Okay, so where the judge, or how about in like the middle of the stairs leading up to the courthouse? Like front and center, boom, there's your commandments. That's what it means by pride of place. And then you have like a Torah off to the side, like on the corner of the building, right? Mm-hmm. So you can't make it look like you're preferring Christianity in that way. All right. Evolution. You do need to know this one: evolution versus creationism. You cannot require it. This is where most of you guys got it wrong. Mandate teaching of biblical creationism, and they've since ruled on that and said that they've taken a step further and said that you cannot teach creationism even if it's a choice among options. So if they're teaching evolution, that doesn't mean that they can offer they can offer creationism as well. Because the implication, I think, means that it's a biblical creationism. Now, if they wanted to have a class that had all sorts of different stories of creation, like the Epic of Gilgamesh, which I'm sure you went over with Ms. Robinson, just different or flood stories or like Native American creation stories. If you're doing all of those creation stories, then that would be okay, I guess. The same thing with you using Bible verses in class. It's not that you can't use the Bible, like in a history class. If I was teaching in a public school, I could use the Bible, but what would I have to do?
What do you want?
I could use the Bible, but I would have to make sure that I was approaching it from a historical perspective and not like I'm trying to brainwash you guys.
So, like, if you were, like, talking about the Roman Empire and you use the Bible to, like, date it, so, like, this particular thing happened here and it's mentioned in the Bible and this other book and this other book.
This is why I don't teach in a public school, is because I think even then you'd have to be really careful. And I think you were on the right track where you were bringing in other books from other places. Yes. I think you could possibly just reference the Bible if you're trying to get an idea of like life during Roman times. You just have to be really careful with that. I think you might even be making yourself vulnerable. But it happens a lot. I mean, there's lots of teachers, I think, in public schools that do this, especially in like rural areas, and they get away with it. Like there's prayers all the time that happen on PA systems. Are you kidding me? If you're going into like, rural Virginia, like out near Danville or something, guaranteed. Okay, so and so here we go. This is going to be the last one we covered today. This idea of one is drug use permissible? Okay, is drug use permissible? Alex Castanian, look at the pictures here for a second. This might interest you. Okay, I have a feeling that it might. Okay, so with this, is drug use permissible? And the honest answer is it depends. And I'm going to give you a couple of cases where they ruled a couple of different ways. So in the first one, they said absolutely not. And this was a case where you have this guy, okay, and he essentially made up a religion to smoke weed. Okay, and they said that the principal thing, hey, we smoke weed, right? You can't touch us, free exercise, right? And the government said, no, you can't just create a religion to circumvent the law, which is what they felt that was happening in this case. So they ruled in favor of the state of Oregon. He's basing that off of this case, where they said yes. And you're going to have to, I'm not going to require, every single word, but if you're, as long as, I'll say this, as long as you recognize that name, and it shouldn't be too hard, you got what? Aspirita beneficiante vegetal, okay? Doesn't take a genius to figure out what's going on in that case. This was a case where you have a Native American tribe. Have you guys heard of peyote?
What?
Peyote.
Peyote? Is that like a tribe?
Yeah, it's a Title I drug, like marijuana.
Oh.
It gives you hallucinogenic effects and all this other stuff. And what happens is they they had said, this Native American tribe, they cannot practice this. They cannot do this practice. But the government said, yes, in fact, they could. What's the difference between the two?
Because Native Americans, they're like away from society. They're kind of their own thing. They don't really want to be a part of it.
They'd been practicing this well before the American colonists even got here. So this was an established practice. This is part of their nut religion, and it wasn't the focal point, right, as it was in Oregon versus Smith. It was all about perceived motivation, which can be tough to determine, but that was the basis for this case. And the last one we'll talk about today, and I know there's only a minute left, is animal sacrifice permissible? The answer is yes. According to the Church of Lukemi Babalu Ai versus City of Hialeah, that's in Florida. So they said, yes, if you can practice animal sacrifice, provided animal cruelty, you're not going about it that way and all that. While you finish that up, I'm just going to tell you, there is going to be a homework assignment. I will post it. It's something that kind of goes along with all this, and it's got questions in it. I will send you the Google Docs link via email. Okay. So what I want you to do is just complete that and Dropbox it before Thursday's class. Got it? Okay. If you've got that and you've got this, you're more than welcome to go.
See you, sir.
All right. See you later.
See you, sir.
When did you say you put it up?
I'll email it ASAP.
All right, thank you.
All right.
See you, sir.
Hold on a second.